Hi guys, my name is Nicole Weisner. I am a student at Elizabethtown College, and today I'm going to be talking to you about electronic cigarettes for my presentation. Before I begin the presentation, it's important to understand exactly what an e-cigarette is. It is a battery-powered device that is usually used to replace conventional cigarettes because of smoking cessation, AIDS, or just an alternative to smoking. And the way they work is that they are battery powered, and instead of smoking the tobacco, their cartridges are filled with nicotine and other chemicals that vaporize when heated. Now, this vapor is what makes these devices known as that you are vaping rather than smoking, because the smoke that they produce is actually vapor, and the vapor is filled with aerosol. That being said, I want to show you one of the devices. This right here is a disposable blue e-cigarette that I purchased to kind of give you an idea of how small it is, how portable it is, how convenient it is, and how easily it could be disguised as maybe a pen or something else like that. And that is exactly why these are extremely common among youth today, unfortunately. But to continue the presentation, more about the background of e-cigarettes. They were introduced to the United States market in 2007, and they are considered tobacco products under the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. They are what's known as an ENDS device, and ENDS stands for Electronic Nicotine Delivery System. And as I said, when you use one of these, you are said to be vaping rather than smoking, and the vapor is composed of aerosol. Now, what is inside the cartridges of these devices is nicotine, chemicals, and liquid flavoring that is known as e-juice. And what kind of makes these devices so exciting is that there is over 7,000 flavors to choose from, which can be an enjoyable thing for people that like to experiment with, let me try this flavor, let me try that flavor, similar to almost like beer, I would say. Okay, now that being said, many people say that e-cigarettes are safer than smoking traditional cigarettes, that they can be used as cessation devices, that they're convenient, like I said, that they can be exciting, that they're currently extremely popular, especially among youth, that they are generally socially accepted, and that they are affordable. More affordable than conventional cigarettes, I might add. So as you can see in my PowerPoint, I put a picture that says this is a designated vaping area, which kind of gives you the idea that we are used to a lot of areas being designated non-smoking areas, as in non-smoking tobacco cigarettes. But with these devices, they're generally permitted just about anywhere because they don't leave behind that secondhand smoke or the smell that is dangerous for others. So these can literally be used just about anywhere, outdoors, indoors, and unfortunately, even in public buildings such as schools. My research has shown me that um, there's actually a phrase that is "don't juul in school," which really gives you an idea of just how much youth has access to these and just how much they are undetectable when they are used. Okay, moving on. I have a picture in my presentation, my PowerPoint, of the different styles of e-cigarettes there are. Like I said, this is a disposable one, but there are many others which become more advanced and kind of more targeted for people who enjoy this as a hobby. Um, continuing on, I think it's important that we take a look at the myths that surround e-cigarettes. A lot of people believe that it's so much safer than smoking cigarettes because what's in them is just water vapor, when that's actually a dangerous misconception. It's not just water vapor. It can expose a user's lungs to harmful chemicals and toxic metal particles like nickel, tin, and lead. In addition to that, a lot of teens think that it's just flavoring, when this is actually false as well. Vapes get their flavors from chemicals, and while these flavorings are safe to eat and ingest, they are not safe to inhale. And inhaling these flavors can cause damage to your lungs. In addition, excuse me, a lot of vapes actually say on their label that they are nicotine free, when in fact they are not. And a lot of people are drawn into that misconception and think, well, if there's no nicotine in it, as the label tells me, then there's no way that I can get addicted. And that is simply not the case, because they do contain nicotine, even when they say they don't. And nicotine is a very dangerous substance, especially for teens and youth, and they can disrupt normal brain development. It can actually increase impulsivity and cause mood disorders. In addition to that, e-cigarettes are actually known as gateway drugs to smoking regular cigarettes, which I found interesting in my research. To kind of, on one side, people say that they're used for smoking cessation, but on the other side, they are also gateway drugs to e-cigarettes, particularly for youth. As you'll see in my PowerPoint presentation, their teens are more likely to use e-cigarettes than cigarettes, and a lot of them don't even know what is in the e-cigarette that they're smoking. If you take a look at the pie chart there in the graph, a lot of them think that e-cigarettes are just flavoring. 13.2% of teens think it's nicotine. 13.7% of teens don't know what's in it, and 5.8% of teens think it's marijuana. That being said, there is a lot of misinformation out there around e-cigarettes because their advertising is generally incorrect. Excuse me. Advertising is something that is targeted towards teens, and it's really something that they can't avoid. They see these advertisements in gas stations, in stores, there's vape shops, there's internet ads. These ads are on the radio, they're on TV, they're in magazines and newspapers. And like I said, it's really just not something that they can avoid being exposed to, which is sad. And that's kind of why the FDA had to step in just a few years ago and kind of crack down on the advertising and marketing of these products. So the FDA placed restrictions for labels on these products, such as the product packaging must contain the nicotine warning. It must have a size 12 font. It must have a bold rectangular border around the label warning, and the labels must be considered conspicuous. So at least 20 or 30% of the entire ad must be of the warning itself, depending how large the ad is. And that kind of struck me too, that they would have to be that specific about it, because I'm sure that I'm not the only one who's noticed generally with products like this, there will be the advertisement for it and then just a bunch of tiny script at the bottom of the screen that a lot of people can't even read or know what it says to understand the warning itself. So, continuing on with this presentation, Like I said, advertising is a huge deal. It's a multi-million-dollar industry with misleading content and promotions that are generally geared towards youth. And a lot of you might remember my creative expression project that I used in the discussion board, where I posted a video of a Juul commercial, which had an older lady in her house, and she was upset that she could not smoke her regular cigarettes in her house. So a friend recommended, why don't you try an e-cigarette, because you can smoke them in your house discreetly. And that seemed to be the cure for her. And the tagline of the whole commercial was, make the switch. And as you can see, I have another kind of false propaganda picture in my presentation here that says, love your lungs, that vapes are simple, refreshing, and smoke-free. But is vaping really loving your lungs? According to the World Health Organization, there is no scientific evidence confirming the effect and safety of e-cigarettes. And a lot of people would prefer us to believe that they are, in fact, healthier than cigarettes. Other studies show that e-cigarette users actually do experience side effects that are similar to regular cigarettes, such as wheezing, shortness of breath, coughing, a sore throat, sensitive teeth, mouth ulcers, headaches, fatigue, chest pain, tightening of chest, and cold symptoms. So a lot of those characteristics are pretty similar, actually, to traditional cigarettes. And just the same, there is definitely effects when it comes to the e-cigarette. But what's unfortunate about the e-cigarette is that since they've only been on the market for about 10 years, it's hard for anyone to definitively determine the long-term effects that these devices are having on humans, because they haven't been around long enough to really see what kind of damage these are doing. And with that being said, these are only increasing in popularity. Every year, there are millions of more people trying these and getting addicted to these. And that is simply not okay, and it's not safer than real cigarettes. Which is why I have the quote in my presentation that says, continued critical appraisal of e-cigarettes is necessary to understand their impact on public health. So that is my presentation. I hope that you have learned a little something about e-cigarettes and the way that they impact people, and kind of the myths that are out there, that a lot of people are under the false impression that they are safer, or that they are confirmed cessation devices for regular smoking, when in fact this is just not the case. So my recommendation, if you or someone you know is addicted to these, there are support groups available, there are websites, there are plenty of people out there who can help you stop using these. And in addition to that, I think as a country and as a society, what we can do to stop having these devices be so popular and so supported and increasing in use is that marketing should be more restricted and cracked down. As I said, sales can be more controlled, and there just needs to be better regulation all around of who has access to these and where they can be used. And most importantly, I think family support, such as teachers, parents, friends, all of that can make a difference in not using these nicotine products, because once again, they do contain nicotine, and nicotine is an addictive substance. So these are not safe, and they are not healthier than regular cigarettes. So I hope that you learned a little something today from this presentation, and if you have any questions, please feel free to post them to me. Thank you for listening.